Welcome to the 30-minute acrylic portrait, where we paint an acrylic portrait a la prima in about a half an hour. Hope you're doing well, and today we're going to be working on a fun one. This is going to be what I'll call the man with the black cap. And here we have an old man. Actually, we'll call it old man with a black cap, just to be more specific. But I love this lighting. We have a nice face here and high contrast. And classic pose, he's just 3/4 angle, good strong lighting, just be a really interesting subject to paint. With a 30-minute acrylic portrait, the way this works is I paint this portrait literally in 30 minutes live. I'm not dubbing over or doing a voiceover recording or anything. This is me painting right now. Of course, this will be posted later, but yeah, the whole process here is just raw, and I'm going to be using a timer. So I set that for 30 minutes, and when the clock goes to 0, then I'll put down my brush, and what we have is what we have. The reason I do a 30-minute acrylic portrait exercise is just to kind of keep loose a little bit, and it really helps you to build your skills with seeing proportions accurately, depicting the essence of the subject without a lot of fuss. It really fine-tune a lot of your artistic skills and help you to get faster potentially when you're working on more extensive portrait projects. But anyway, let's dive in here with a word of prayer, and then we'll get started. Father, I ask a blessing on this painting. I pray you'd help me to capture the likeness of this subject. Help me to do it with all excellence. And I just dedicate this time to you. Bless the students as they're watching as well. I pray it would be beneficial for them. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, and we just want to take a look at the colors we have on my palette real quick. I have ivory black, raw umber dark, burnt sienna. I've got raw sienna, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, naphtha red, pyrrole orange, Indian yellow, titanium white, and just a little bit of matte medium. But mostly I'm going to be painting this very opaque, in contrast to my usual painting technique, which is using the glazing method. This will be much more opaque because we're doing it that quick. Okay, so we're going to set the clock up here for 30 minutes. Let's do that. So we've got the timer going for 30 minutes, and now let's begin. So we're going to start by just kind of blocking in the subject. Now I have the canvas tone. This is an 8x10 canvas, but we do want to block in just the overall composition. To do that, I'm going to take a little bit of ivory black and just use some matte medium and dilute it a little bit. And that way it's not going to be so strong on the canvas. But it should be just enough to see what's going on. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and just start kind of plotting out where the composition is going to be roughly. And I have to keep in mind my image is not at an 11x14 format, so I'm going to have to compose it a little bit differently than what I'm seeing here on my Kindle. We're just going to get kind of the shape of the hat, and it's been a while since I've done one of these, and I do want to do more because I think they're just really, really great for keeping your skills fresh. And I've gotten a lot of comments here on my YouTube channel from people who like these 30-minute acrylic portraits. If you like this 30-minute acrylic portrait idea too, give me a thumbs up. Like this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think. You can look at some of my other 30-minute acrylic portrait videos in the playlist, and I have several there. And I hope on adding more in the near future. All right, so again, we're just kind of blocking in the shape of the hat right now. And then we're going to move down to the eyes, cheek structure, the beard. Now we want to plot out, where the shoulder is going to be. He's hunched over, so the shoulder is much higher up here. And so that's something to keep in mind. It's not at the bottom of his chin. It's actually hitting almost to the eye level. Now we got the beard. I want to kind of plot the shape of the beard out. You got to keep in mind the overall dimensions though. Like the hat, all right, is about less than half here. So I got to replicate this distance a little more. I don't want to make that beard too long. Maybe something about like that. Okay, and then we're going to put in the ear up here. He's got a pretty prominent ear. And as people age, I've been told that their ears actually grow a little bit. So you want to get that ear in there. Okay, the back of the shoulder, again, very hunched over. You know, he almost looks like he should have a little pipe in his mouth, doesn't he? Couldn't you just imagine a pipe there, like he's a sailor or something? I can see that. Okay, let's see. All right, so now let's block in some of the overall shape, like of the nose structure and some of the other landmarks on his face. We got the eyes very strong here, kind of a hook nose. You know, granted he is kind of looking down a little bit. His mouth is agape, so we've got that aspect going on. We want to make sure we get some of those details in. Nasolabial fold's quite strong. All right, this should be enough here. Give us a basis to start blocking in. We do have a very strong shadow here. I'm going to block in on the shoulder, and that's important as well. And then the whole left side of his clothing is in shadow, so I'm just going to kind of block that in. Okay, this should give me a good basis with which to now to the next step, which would be putting in the highlights and actually probably the midtones. We'll start with the midtones and add the highlights on top. But this is a highly not contrapposto, Caravaggio kind of chiaroscuro look on his face. You know, there's just some very strong highlights here, and so it's kind of blown out, so to speak. Very harsh lighting, but I think that can work in our favor. Let's use this round brush to block this in. I'll take some titanium white, and we're going to add a little bit of raw sienna to it just to tone it down. A little bit of raw sienna, and let's add just a bit of pyrrole orange. Okay, a little more raw sienna and a little more pyrrole orange. Okay, this should be a good flesh tone that we can use to work out of. So now we'll just start blocking this in. You're going to see a lot of contrast on this right away, and that's all right because that's what we have. And I don't have time to put in, you know, a lot of layers beneath. I have to really get that strong sense of the form of his face and the different planes of his face right away. So we're going to fill this around the edge of the cap. Do have some hair here, but I'll just put that in on top, I think. Right now I'm just going to get the overall structure of his face. Smooth this out a little bit. Okay, the mustache is a little bit of a different color. Beard's a little bit of a different color, so I'm going to leave room for that. I'm going to block in the ear. Again, that's a very strong shape, and I'm going to hold my brush a little bit closer to the edge just to get some precision here. All right, now I want to make sure I get this shadow on his forehead defined. And that kind of flows in. It's the shadow of his cap. Let's get that in. There's just a little bit of the sense of the wrinkles on his face. And then we have a little bit of the highlight of the lip. All right, now let's shift to a different brush. I'll take a flat brush here, and then we're going to block in the form of the beard. So let's take some titanium white and raw umber dark, just so it's not pure white. It has a little bit of color to it, maybe just a touch of Indian yellow. It'll give us a whole different tone to it, and then we're going to block in the beard. Again, the values are quite overblown here. We want that beard to be a little bit lighter than the rest of his face. Let's work in the mustache. All right. Try to get a little bit of the contour here. And bring some of the beard hairs down a little bit as well. I'm going to bring it up into the ear just a bit. And let's just kind of trim that off. We don't want it sticking out too much on that side. Okay. All right, now let's go and get a cooler color, or a little darker. I'll take some, actually take a little ivory black here. Add that to this color we've got. And we're going to add a little bit of ultramarine blue. Cool that down. And that's going to be the shadow color that we're going to use for the left side of the beard. I actually could use just a little bit more ultramarine blue. Cool it down a bit more. Okay, shadow on the left side. All right, let's go a little lighter. Mix it with a little bit of this lighter color here. And then we'll get some of the lighter points that are coming out in that as well. Okay. I always tend to get a call when I'm recording, without fail. We'll just have to let that one go. I think it's a telemarketer. Okay, just had to make sure it wasn't my wife. I'm adding a little bit of ivory black to this, and I want to just darken this shadow here being cast from his nose over his mustache. Then we're going to have this cooler tint on his face. Let's take a bit of raw umber dark and titanium white with what we already have on our brush. Just a hint of naphtha red, just so it's got a little more of a flesh tone tint to it. And what we'll do is we'll place that just on the left hand side of his face, just to suggest the flesh tones there. Now we'll take a little bit of ivory black, add that to this with a little bit of the naphtha red and a little bit of raw umber dark, and then we'll go ahead and just kind of blend that in right there. Let's put in the shadow here on the eyes, and then I'll take my round brush, and then I'm going to work in a shadow here on the eye. So we'll take some raw umber dark, a little bit of burnt sienna just to warm it up a slight bit, and we're going to place that right in here on the eye. Let's get it just a bit warmer. Let's add a little bit of pyro orange to this, so it's reflecting some of the light from the face. We'll just get that warmth in there. Now I'll get a little bit of the eyebrow color. You have to start with it. start with what we have. A little bit of the nasolabial fold as well. Okay, and then we're going to get just a bit of the coloring on the nose. So let's take this flesh tone color, add some pyrrole orange and burnt sienna, a little bit of raw sienna. And we're going to add that right on this edge up here. So we have just a bit of warmth on that nose. Let's just darken the color a bit more. Add some alizarin crimson and raw umber dark to it. All right, let's go ahead and darken this just a bit more. And we'll get a little warmth on this right side of the eye. As we're going into the flesh tones, it usually looks nice just to get a bit of warmth in those areas. Now let's kind of mix and match. We'll take some of this darker tone, put it into the lighter tone, rather than mixing something new. And we'll get a little bit of work on the cheek structure here. A little bit of this accessory shading. Now we'll want to get a darker tone for the ear. And we'll put that in right here just to get that structure going. A little bit of shading on the outside edge, top contour, a bottom contour. Fill in a little bit of the neck. Okay, top contour. Let's keep going. We're going to add some shading on the bottom of the nose. And a little bit of the lip color. We'll take some naphthalene red for that. Add it to this flesh tint we've got on the outside. And then just kind of blend that in. Bring that up, because that lip does come up a little bit higher back there. All right. Now let's do a little bit of work on the hat. I'm going to grab a larger round brush, and then I'm going to take some ivory black and just kind of fill that in. Ivory black, maybe a little raw umber dark, and ultramarine blue, just so it covers better. And what we're going to do is just block this in on the top of the hat. Let's actually tone it down so it's not too dark. We'll mix it into this lighter part of the mix and just try to get a little bit of the structure of the hat in here. A little bit of the shadow there. Now I'm going to take a flat edge brush. This is actually a filbert. And we're going to mix kind of a gray using what we have on the palette. And see if we can get something that kind of blends out. Let's add a little bit of ultramarine blue to it, cool it down. Here we got a couple of the planes of the bottom of the hat here. The top has got to be a little lighter, of course. Try to just hit the bottom edge. Whoops. My brush is getting a little bit frazzled on the edge there. Okay, now we'll add a black shadow over his clothing. There's some kind of a cast shadow being cast over his clothing a little bit. We have a very strong shadow on the opposite edge. Let's block that in. This will help to give it a little bit of form and dimension. Bit of a shadow down in here. And then we'll pull a lighter part of the mix on the palette and get some transverse clothing wrinkles going across here just to show a bit of the form of his arm and chest together. Okay, we can get a little bit of a highlight on top of the cap here. So we'll do that, taking a little bit of titanium white and adding that to the top. Maybe just a hint of raw sienna. Warm it up. And then we'll put that on the top plane of the hat. That's probably a little lighter than what we need. Let's tone that down. Mix it into the darker part of our mix. All right, that should be good. And this will, again, just give us a little more dimension on that top plane of the hat. Get the bill of the hat too. And this band going across, the draw band. Okay, and a bit of texture here. Just a little bit of a peak on the top of that hat too we want to show. Okay, and then I'll block in just a bit of the background color. We'll take raw sienna, burnt sienna, raw sienna. We're just going to block that color in ever so slightly. He's sitting at some sort of a pier here, but I'm just going to make this color all kind of constant. And there's some grassy things going on in the background. Let's get a darker color on the top. Mix it with a little bit of the gray. And continue to block that in. Go a little bit darker. Add some ivory black to this. Just block that in. There. Get a slightly lighter part of it right here on this other side. Down to 10 minutes left. 10 minutes left. Can we do it? By God's grace, we can. I'm just going to add a little raw sienna to this. Indian yellow, get something a bit warmer. And I'm just going to add a few flecks of that on the background. All right, and now let's do a little more work on the interior on the face. We'll grab our detail brush. Well, it's not a detail brush, just our round brush here. And we will get some highlights on the face. So take some titanium white, a little bit of, just a slight bit of raw sienna, and then a larger amount of Indian yellow, a bit of pyrrole orange, because we want to use these warmer pigments, more vibrant pigments as we go lighter. That's generally how you want to do it. And we'll take that and put that on top and try to get some more dimension and depth here see if we can create the semblance of some wrinkles. Get a little highlight on the nose. The nose has a very, very strong highlight on it. Bring that down. And try to see on a reference photo where the strongest highlights are and replicate that as much as we can. And you can see on the reference photo they're right up here on the forehead and the nose and the ear. So that's what we're aiming for. We will also put a few highlights on top of the ear. Just tone that in a little bit. All right, and strengthen that highlight on the nose as much as we can. If I have time, I'll do a little work on the beard. Let's take some titanium white, and we're just going to add it to this particular color that we've already got. And we're going to get some lighter colors on the beard. So just kind of showing some of the texture, you know, on the beard hairs. A little bit of texture on the mustache. Got that tuft kind of flowing out on the bottom here. Okay, we'll just flow this beard into the face. All right. See if we can do just a bit of work on the eyes, just kind of getting that detail a little more precise here. That eyelid area, if I can get just that overhang in there, that would be great. And then maybe get a little bit of a nuance on the other part of the eye. Down to 5 minutes. Take some raw sienna, pyrrole orange, mix that together. Bit of burnt sienna. And we're going to add that over the eyebrows, because that's really in the sunlight, so it's got to be much, much brighter. We want to get that kind of golden tint. To add a little pyrrole orange to this, and a bit of titanium white, maybe a little burnt sienna. I just want to make sure we're not losing the eyebrows altogether here. We'll go ahead and get a darker color in there to redefine them. A little bit of raw umber dark. Come in on the underside and just make sure we're not losing them. A little bit of the eyelash in there. All right, let's get just a bit of that yellowish color reiterated elsewhere, just so this is not the only instance of it in the painting. That'll give us just a bit more continuity of color throughout the image. Okay, and add a little bit more pyrrole orange here and titanium white. And then we're going to just blend this more into the cheek area. I'm going to bring the ear down just a little bit lower. Now that shadow on his hat, let's get that. We'll take some burnt sienna, pyro orange, naphtha red. We're going to make a shadow color, and we're going to place that right within that shadow under his hat. And mix that with a little bit of gray. And then let's show just a semblance of the other eye. Get a little bit of a darker area in there to show part of the structure of the eye. A little bit of work on the mustache. Use some of this color here to feather out the beard just a bit. Add a couple little curly cues of hairs flowing down here. This area here should be a little stronger. I'll be picky about that. You can see it now a little better. All right, see what else we can get done within the little bit of time we have left. Let's highlight the neck just a bit. Let's shave in that ear. Using just a bit of black. So you can see the shape is just a bit off. See if we can get a little detail on the hat. All right. Pretty soon that is going to be ticking. And we'll go ahead and just add a little bit of the edge on that left side. Okay. All right. Still ticking, but we'll just call it good. Yeah, we'll call it good. All right, so this is what we've got. This is what we've got here for the 30 minutes. I like how this turned out. You know, obviously there's so much more that we could do, and you know, I would like to add more nuances, more wrinkles, more dimension and depth, but for 30 minutes, you know, I'm pretty happy with what I was able to achieve by God's grace. And you know, it just shows you what is possible, you know, with 30 minutes. And it's not something that you need to, you know, again, try to really make it a beautiful portrait that you would hang on a wall like a masterpiece. It's just really an exercise. Just consider this like a portrait study. And you could do this in preparation of another portrait if you want to paint it, you know, with more detail. Or you could just decide to add more layers onto it, smooth it out, refine some of the forms, and actually turn it into a really beautiful painting. But again, this is what we have here. I do like the highlights on his nose, his cheek, the beard. The overall structure to me is pretty accurate for, you know, a quick portrait sketch like this. And I think it does a pretty good job of capturing, you know, his overall bearing as a subject. So yeah, I like how it turned out. I guess I would have liked to have finished that little ridge on his eyebrow right there. I forgot about that. But, you know, if I was to put in another 30 minutes on this, you know, I could add that in, and maybe I will. But hey, what'd you think of this video? Does this inspire you to try a 30-minute acrylic portrait? If you throw perfectionism out of the window, just give it a shot, and just realize whatever you accomplish in that time, whether, you know, it looks really good or pretty good, or in your estimation not as good as you'd like, just consider it, hey, it's 30 minutes, right? So it is something. If you do these exercises on a regular basis, you'll get better and better at it. And I'm going to endeavor to do that in my art practice too, once I get some more ducks in a row. Anyway, hope you found this video helpful. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, share this video with your friends. Don't forget to check out more of my tips, tutorials, free classes at realisticacrylic.com. Realisticacrylic.com. We have a link below in the description. Some other things you can download to make your portrait painting life a lot easier. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. God bless, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.